All right. So for the end of the term, we are targeting May 28th for that entrepreneurs forum that we had talked about throughout. We'll get a lot more details coming, but we're lining up a couple speakers already. Got one gentleman who's a veteran and finished up med school, and he's now at Yale getting an MBA. And he has started a pretty successful program for veterans and military connected to utilize their medical records all on one app on your phone, including the VA has finally signed off on it, which is a major coup for them. But he's going to talk to us as well about being an entrepreneur and how he fundraised for that as well, one of the things. But I'd like to introduce tonight's speaker. It is Brett Douglas, who's the managing partner of Waterston Holdings. Brett has been involved in about every single thing that we've been talking about throughout the program, from starting a company, and he'll talk a little bit about that, to finding the funding for the company, which we're going to talk a lot about tonight. And now he's completely on the other end, where he's investing in companies and entrepreneurs like you. And so he'll talk a little bit about that, is what's different about it from an investor standpoint, what's different about it from the person who's starting the company or the people who are starting a company, and everything in between. He said he's open for questions throughout, so we can do this either way. If you want to just put your hand up, and then we'll call on you, and I'll stop him, because if he'll be showing slides, he won't be able to see it. Or you can put your question in the chat, and I'll just kind of moderate that and just say, hey, Brett, we have a question from Gage on this. And so let you go from there, or I can even read the question for you if you'd prefer that. So with that being said, I'd like to turn it over and thank Brett Douglas for joining us tonight.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it. Like Mike said, been in many, and I'll throw up the screen here. Mike, I think I need to get the host over so I can share.
You should have it now.
Should share. Okay.
Yep.
So here we go. And we're up, I think.
Yes, you are sharing your screen.
Okay. Can you
Don't see my slides yet?
Can you see that? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Let me go. Okay. So yeah, anyway, my name is Brett Douglas. And Mike was gracious enough to ask me to help you guys out tonight. If if the entrepreneur track is something you want to go down, and again, throughout the entire time, just stop me, yell. I mean, we don't have a ton of people on tonight, so if there's any questions, please stop and ask. There's no dumb questions out here. I did put my personal Yahoo Mail on there, so if you do have questions later, you thought about them, whatever, please feel free to email me. I actually have had several very good mentors in my life, and it's time for me to give back and be a mentor myself. So if anybody has questions or whatever, I do mentor a lot of young entrepreneurs. So anything I can do to help. So just my background. So coming out of Ohio State, I was a finance major from Ohio State, went into the cardiac industry for 22 years. During those times, held a bunch of mergers and acquisitions positions, strategic planning, so on and so forth. So I was with Boston and Abbott. And during those times, I started and sold two companies while I was still with them. Which it was kind of like that. Now the big, kind of phrase that everybody says is, you have a side hustle. I guess I was doing the side hustle before everything was a side hustle, because that was almost 20 years ago for the first one. And then in amongst those two things, I was recruited over to a couple companies to do IPOs. I was on what's called their roadshow deal team. That was when we were talking with investors and talking about the different aspects of the company to make sure that when you go IPO, that you're kind of bolstering that stock up and getting investors coming in. I've also done Parachute CEO, which is, you know, kind of a military term, I guess, a little bit, because what it is basically they throw us into the fire, into a company that is basically on fire, and you're fixing it. So done that a couple different times, which is an interesting deal, because you are literally wearing every hat of the company at that point in time, because you're microscoping everything. You know, done 3 commercial company structure build outs. You know, currently what we do with our current is we work with 16 universities and institutions, and we're actually taking technology, medical technology, out of there, and we build them into companies, and then we sell them off to the bigger companies. So could be a catheter, it could be, you know, any kind of medical related things that we think are going to be kind of the next hit. We'll take those on, go through patents and regulatory and so on and so forth, and then move those up. So that is what I am currently doing as the managing director of Waterston Capital. And then I also am a partner in Carmen Ventures, which is an Ohio State alumni-backed fund. So I do a lot of advising and work with their investors, just to build the fund up, and also do the different. I specialize in the medical side, so I will do the due diligence on all of the medical equipment that we look to buy. So everybody says, well, what's an entrepreneur, right? And you're like, I don't know. I got to go build a chair, or I got to do this or something crazy, right? Now, there's actually so many different angles and avenues to go down. You know, you can start a company for sure. You can say, hey, I've got this great idea, and I know that I can make this happen. So you could go ahead and start a company. The other thing you can do is you can buy a company. You could buy, you know, a laundromat. You could buy a car wash, something of that nature. I mean, you could buy other bigger companies too. It just, you know, depends on your backing and finance, all that kind of stuff. And then a lot of people like to go into the franchise side. They'll buy into a franchise and then move into several others. That's kind of like a turnkey. You know, they're going to give you a playbook and everything. You know, the only issue is there that you're going to have royalty fees that you have to pay back. But, you know, it's kind of like the give and take. If that makes you feel more comfortable, because you're like, I don't have to do this solely on my own. I have a marketing team. I got, you know, HR materials and so on and so forth. Then a franchise is something that, you know, you want to look at. The other thing you can do is you can do partnerships, right? And that happens a lot. I see that all the time. Partnerships can be good and bad. Partnerships are like a marriage, right? In the beginning, the honeymoon is amazing, right? You're like, oh my God, this is exactly what I want. I love my partner. Well, then, you know, as you go into battle, because all of you guys have been in the battlefield, it gets a little rough, right? So you want to make sure that if you're going to do that, you got to have the rules laid out ahead of time as much as possible. And that, you know, that's, you put that in what's called your operating agreement. You set different, you try to do as much as you can to avoid the landmines. And then the last thing is you could just do it on your own, and that's called a sole proprietorship, right? So you could just kind of say, hey, I'm going to do this by myself. We're going to make this happen and go from there. So either way, it's just, I would investigate into each one of your kind of areas and say, hey, this is what I feel most comfortable with. So the rules of starting a business. One, the first and foremost is find good mentors. And Mike and I were talking about this before. I cannot tell you how important this is. And you're going to go in and out of different mentors throughout your life, depending on, Mike, can you hold on? It's the electric company here. I'm so sorry. They're going to tell me if my power's going out. Hang tight real quick.
No problem. Yeah, they're having some electrical issues in his neighborhood. He mentioned before we started, the power company is on his street. Life is always there.
It is.
Thanks for popping that term in there, Kat, too. And that's the same thing. If he says any kind of terms that you don't know, feel free to ask the question in there or throw it in the chat and we'll get it explained. It's kind of like us in the military using abbreviations.
I'm going to switch over to my phone because they're going to cut my power, but we'll keep trucking here. Here, let me just get on my phone here. Okay. Sorry about this.
It's fine. Yeah, life happens.
Yeah, right. Fun stuff. Okay, we're on my phone, so we should be, let me go back. We should be okay. Okay, so successful rules, again, mentors, right? Unbelievably important. I cannot emphasize this enough. Your mentors can literally save you not only thousands or millions of dollars, but also tons and tons of time. Because a lot of us out there have, unfortunately, made the mistakes that you might make. So you're going to make other mistakes, I guarantee it. But don't make the ones that your mentors have already made. And those mentors actually can be really good board advisors. And what I'm saying is that, there's different ways to put a board together, right? People think, oh, this board is this huge boardroom and I'm doing all this different stuff and whatnot. Well, it can just be a board of advisors, which are your mentors. And we'll get into financing at some point, but it will also, this will say to you guys, it will show you that you can have these board of advisors, and they will also be your fundraisers too, or bring funding in. So then when it comes to that, don't be stingy with your equity. Now, what I mean is equity that's your trading at that point in time, because usually, new startups don't have a ton of money, but so you are trading your equity. But the thing is that you want to make sure that you are using that equity appropriately, because if it costs you, let's say you have 4 mentors and it costs you 20% of your company, but you're bringing on really strong mentors that can help you to be very successful, it's worth it, right? I always use the phrase, you could have 100% of nothing or 60% of a ton, right? So let's just think about that when you're bringing on different people. And I'm not saying I just arbitrarily grab 5%. So that doesn't necessarily mean, hey, I got to do this, but just make sure that you are engaging them enough that they're like, hey, I want to help you. I mean, people are going to do it. Most guys or girls are going to do it because they want to be mentors, but you also have to make sure that you're giving back. So try not to be stingy with the equity. And I know this sounds really strange, but try to be the dumbest guy or girl in the room, right? You want to surround yourself with smart people, and just the ego goes out the door, right? So you just want to say, hey, I'm going to do what they tell me to do and go from there. And I remember being in my first board of advisors meeting and my head was absolutely spinning. They were throwing so much information at me. It was pathetic, but that's what you want. You don't want them to come in and say, oh, you're the best person in the world. You're so smart. This is great. You want them to poke holes all over everything so that you're getting ready for the next level. And also in part of that, you want to find people with different skill sets than you. If you're an awesome finance person, you don't want another finance person that's as good, if maybe not even as good as you, right? You want someone that's going to challenge you in different roles, operations roles or HR roles or whatever that works for you. You just want to make sure that they're different. And this next one is quite interesting. This will go into my next couple of slides, but just try and stay steady. And I think that, yeah, so the next slide shows when you're an entrepreneur, think about this. You are on a roller coaster ride, you're riding backwards, and you're blindfolded. And that's what it feels like. I mean, you can be the highest of highs, and you could possibly be the lowest of lows, right? You will have when you go to sell companies, it is a high. You're like, oh my God, this is great. And then the deal will go off the track. It'll go back on, it'll go off. So you just kind of have to try and stay steady. In fact, a lot of us use the term recovering entrepreneur. And what does that mean? Well, we all say after our first startup, I'm not going to do this again. And then you get right back into it because you love it. It gets in your blood. It's a lot. It's kind of like you guys in the military, right? It's just intriguing and you're just ready to go. And there's always that fight or flight mentality that's going on. So it is absolutely, I would do nothing else. I can't even imagine going back into a corporate environment now. It would just be torture for me. In fact, when I go into all-day meetings, I literally feel like a caged animal. So it's that you'll hear that term a lot, recovering entrepreneur. So we talked a little bit about financing, and that comes down like your friends and family. So your mentors and other friends or family, kind of says it right there. But there's other ways. The lines of credit that you could go in and get out of the bank. There's venture capital, which the pros is that they're willing to roll the dice on early stage companies. The con is that they're going to take a ton of equity on that. So you just have to weigh those two things out. If you're buying a company, a lot of times they'll do owner financing, which means that it's basically a loan. So let's say the company's worth, $2 million and they will sell it to you for $2 million and then take a 10% interest or something of that nature over so many years. So they're financing to get that back. So that'll work. That works a lot with people that are trying to retire or just get out on a smaller kind of business. Another thing that you can do, I've seen this happen sometimes, is that there's other entrepreneurs who have been out there that have done successful exits, and they will sponsor different people. And that's kind of like, it's kind of like being maybe a pro golfer, right? Coming right out, and you got somebody that's basically betting on you, and they will put, say, hey, I got to make X number of dollars a year. So they'll put that money into you, but then they own, that percentage of the company going forward. So there's that mentality also. And then the last thing is the board investment. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. When you bring board members on, they usually expect that they're going to invest something. I usually bring on my board members as people that I know and trust. Every one of my investors right now are people that I've known for a long time. So those are just, some of the areas. And I think I get a little bit deeper in this. I mean, you can do online.
Brett?
Yeah.
Could you mention just real quick, you talked about both venture capital and sponsorship as having a stake in the company as it goes forward. Is there a difference between those?
Yeah. The venture capital will take over 51%. So they'll own the majority of the company. A sponsorship may just be someone like a mentor or somebody like that might say, hey, I'm going to stake you 50 grand or whatever it is to get things going. And that is for you to just have while you're not even making any income, right? And then you may put together a deal and it says, oh, you know what, for that 50,000 that you staked me, I'm going to be, that's 20% of my upcoming company. Or it's more of just a mentor mentee. It's not, you're not going to go out there and search on the internet and say, who will sponsor me, right? It's more of just people that have trust in you is the kind of thing.
Good. Thank you.
Yep. So finding investors. I mean, again, you can do this through online platforms, accelerator programs, and those accelerator programs there are a lot of times they're like here in Columbus, there's probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them, right? That they have government funding or other funding that you can have. You guys will have other great resources that I was not, privy to with being veterans. As you know, there's probably plenty of programs out there that will do that. You can do angel investor networks. Those investor networks are just people who love the art of the deal, right? They love to get a part of this. So they may throw There goes my power. Can you guys not see me now?
No, we can kind of see you.
Okay, I'll just well
The
just
glow
leave
of
it.
the screen.
We can still
Yeah.
see a little bit. Yeah, you're all
Okay,
right.
can you see? You can see the screen though, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, don't worry about me. My face is not that pretty, so it's all good. So the angel investment is those are just entrepreneurs out there that get together in a collective group that will they'll throw maybe 100,000 each in, and there might be 10 of them or 20 of them, and then they'll all decide on what kind of investment that they want to do for that particular month or year or whatever, and then they have things called sidecars that they do, and they will also invest alongside of that angel investment. So let's say, hey, this one person really enjoys the investment that they're getting into, and he or she may come to the side and say, hey, yes, the angel investment network is going to give you $1 million, but I feel good about this. I want to give you another 150,000 or something like that, and you guys would negotiate on the side as far as what is that worth. And that goes back though, that and it kind of goes to the next couple slides. You got to know your numbers. So you got to know what this company's worth, or unfortunately some of these guys out there or girls out there could take a little bit of advantage of you. So you just need to stand strong on your valuation, and we'll get into that here on the next couple slides. So this is what they're looking for. They're looking to see, okay, yeah, what is this market? Is this anything, right? You as the entrepreneur could say, hey, my baby is beautiful. And they're going to look at you and say, your baby is not beautiful. And you have to show them why your baby is beautiful. You're going to have what's called a pitch deck. You're going to show them the whole PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully you won't have to do it in the dark like I'm doing it right now. But I'll tell you what, just as a side story, when I was doing the IPOs, we were pitching. And so one of the IPOs that I did was we went public in Australia. Well, we were doing it during just post-COVID. So we were not allowed to travel into Australia. So we were doing pitches to Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, New Zealand on their time. So I was doing pitches at like 3 a.m. And so you get up, get ready for the pitch. It's like 2. Then you drink a bunch of caffeine, get ready, and then you'd be done pitching at like 5. And you're like, oh man, I'm so hyped up, I can't go to sleep right now. So these are just some of the things that you'll have to get ready for when you're trying to possibly raise money. They again, the investors obviously want to look for monetary gain and also the product momentum. But I would say that yes, all those 3 are extremely important. But if that last one, the team, is not there, I won't invest in. I look at the team every single time. I don't know if you guys ever watched Shark Tank, but they always look to the team. They always look to the person, because if there's a great product, hey, there we go, power's back on. If there's a great product, but you can't get it through because of a management team, it's not worth it, right? So you want to really focus on those pieces, and there's really good materials out there that can show you how to do a pitch and a pitch deck, but you want to keep these pieces, the market opportunity, monetary gain, product momentum in there. And then you also want to list your team. And that's why it's so important when you go and do a pitch or whatever you're doing, that you have other people on there. You have like a guy like Mike, right? He's respected in the community. He's got, he's got, there's people that have, different specialties in different areas, right? So you want to have that so that you can refer to them, because a guy like Mike, for instance, brings credibility, right? So you want to make sure that whoever you have on your team, that you have credibility for those investors.
Hey, Brett, is the team normally part of this pitch? At least the senior team, and then often do the investors want to meet further down into the company before they'll decide?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, if they're like, I've been fortunate enough that a lot of my board team are well known, and so they kind of know who they are. Usually, if you're going to go do a true pitch, you will just have at the very minimum, you'll have their pictures on there and kind of their backgrounds and what they've done. And then if they want to do further due diligence, yeah, they'll call the team for sure. Now they want to know also if not just the board of advisors, but they want to know the true team. So it might, like if you had, let's call yourself the CEO, and then you had your COO next to you, you'd probably want to have that team there too. And they will get vetted too. They want to know, if you look on any valuation on how they value companies, they always have the team on there, and that can plus or minus different things for you.
Thanks.
Yep.
Brett, could you talk a little bit about the importance of diversity of the team and in putting things together from your experience?
Sure. Crucial. So you don't want to have 5 of your same type on the team, right? You want to have, I was talking about this before. If you're a finance guy, you need, someone that's going to be good in marketing or operations, or you need to look at yourself and have a true talk with yourself and say, what am I good at and what am I not good at? And you need to identify those things and say, okay, I need this. So, for instance, I am a visionary CEO. That I know that. I'm not the best operations guy, because I think visionary, and I'm big picture, right? So I know that whatever I go into, I can run operations, but that's not my strong suit. So I know that I have to bring an operations person with me. So the best thing that I can say to you is, have your mentors look at you and say, hey, what do I lack? What kind of people do I need to surround me in this? It's just going back to, everybody's been in the military on this call, going back to that and saying, who do I need in this operation, right? I've got tanks, or I've got this and this and this. Okay, what's the void? So that's what you have to have when you're going into with investors. Did that answer your question? I'm going to think yes. Mike, can you still hear me?
Yes, can hear
Oh,
you.
oh.
I felt like I answered the question pretty well. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, sure. So the next part is no outlandish projections. I know that you want to make things look really, really good, but they actually make you look really, really bad, because investors are going to be like, that's a bunch of crap. I got it. And then whatever projections you have, you got to remember, all projections are going to be wrong. It's just how wrong are they going to be, right? There's nobody, I've never seen a projection that is spot on. It's just not going to happen. So it's how close can you be to being wrong? And then if you're going to make projections, you got to have, different backups that are going to show why this is going to happen, right? And you have to, when you are putting your projections together, you have to ask yourself, okay, what else can go wrong? What's my plan B? What's my plan C? What's my plan D? And how am I going to get there? Because these investors are going to ask you this stuff, right? They want to know, how are you going to protect my money? Or how, you'll hear the word de-risk 150 times during your presentation. And that is going back to knowing your numbers. If they're like, hey, well, somebody pitched me the other day, because we were getting rid of an investor company, and they didn't know first and second year projections and how they were going to get that. And I said, well, I don't understand. And they said, well, we're kind of working on them. And at that point in time, it shut down. I'm like, you're not ready. So you need to know, you need to project as close that you can, but also know you're going to be wrong, but feel comfortable in those numbers and get to the point where you feel comfortable with the lowest amount number, the worst case scenario. Here we go again, back on stage. You need to feel comfortable with some of those worst case scenarios that is possible out there. You need to just say, okay, hey, this company is going to make X number of dollars this year. And if that's the worst case scenario, I'm good with it and we'll move forward. Don't set yourself up and say, we're going to make this, and it's a very, very long shot, right? So just make sure that you're being, your numbers, and you're being truthful with yourself.
Hey, Brett,
Is
we
there
got
another-
two questions out here.
Okay.
One is from Kat that said, to confirm, projections come from comparing your businesses to others that are similar, or is there other types of projections as well?
Yeah, it's called a pro forma. It comes from a bunch of different things. You want to look at, businesses that are similar. You want to look at, what you feel. I don't know if everybody's familiar with TAM, and I don't want to get too deep. There's like TAM, SAM, SOM. It's like the total available market. So just and we won't get into this tonight because it's pretty in depth, but look up if you want TAM, TAM, SAM, SAM, and SOM, SOM. And those are the different variables of the market, right? There's the total available market, and then there's the total market that you think you can acquire, right? So if it's $1 billion market and you say, hey, my first year out, I'm going to, make 500 million. We're like, you're not going to take 50% of the market, right? We know that's not going to happen. So those things go in your projection too. And then you also have to look at, your pipeline, which things that are already getting ready to happen, and you need to factor those in. When I do my projections, I get to my number, and then I take about 10 to 20% off of that, because then I feel very comfortable that I am extremely conservative with my numbers out there. And that's what you want to be. You want to under promise and over deliver every time. And if your investors or yourself or whoever can get comfortable with that number, and you can out proceed that, fantastic. But don't go in there because your investors will hammer you, or you'll hammer yourself if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not even close to what I'm going to make. So just again, it's this whole truth factor with yourself. It's great I am an Excel spreadsheet junkie. Like I love numbers. I love Excel spreadsheets. It's great. I could make anything look really good, but you just have to be super, super conservative and just be humble to yourself to know what that's actually going to be.
Hey, Gage, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I was just curious. If you were looking at a team, and that team was missing a specific type of member, you mentioned specifically here, marketing, finance, and like an idea man. If you looked at a team and they were missing a finance guy, I'm sure you would look at that and where the hell is your finance guy? What are the basic, I guess, cornerstones of that team then?
Well, okay. So that brings up a good question. So sometimes, and sometimes you got to fake it before you make it, right? I mean, I'm sure you've heard that before. So you're not going to be able to go out and be like, okay, I need a finance guy, and I need a CFO, and I need a HR, and I need marketing, and I need this.
Right.
Sometimes you got to do some of that yourself, but you can also, I would say my advice, if you're starting a company up, outsource as much as you can. Okay. Because fractional CFOs or fractional accountants or marketing or whatever, they're out there. Okay. And Gage, where are you located?
Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, so Gage, with what you have is you have Rev 1 down the street from you. You have there's another accelerator, StarTech, that's here. So there's a lot of there's Cincy Tech, which is down in Cincinnati. All of these, if you get in with them and like they see that they've looked at your business plan, they might not think, oh, we're going to invest absolutely in this, but they will literally state paid people give you advisement on this. And then on top of that, they have different avenues that they say, hey, this person or this person is okay, and they are good CFOs or they're good marketing people or whatever. They will absolutely help you. So I would definitely, especially you, go to the accelerators, which is the Rev 1. Can you guys hang on one more time? The electric guys are here again. Hold on.
Yeah, and there's lots of these depending on where you're at, you know, in your communities and things like that. So most of the bigger cities have them. But also if you're not necessarily in a bigger city, you can get dialed in with some of these accelerator companies as well, or accelerator places.
I guess the best way to find out those things is to just go around and ask those
Sorry about
questions
that.
about where they might be, who might be the best, you know, asking your mentor that kind of thing.
What was the question, Gage? I'm sorry. Or comment?
Sorry, he was just saying about there's different companies, different organizations in every area, different accelerator programs, stuff like that. And I was just asking, the best way to look is just, you know, start prodding on the internet, asking your mentor, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like I said, for you, you know, Rev 1 is a great asset to go to. There's you know, Cincy Tech is another one. There's another one in Dayton. I can't remember the Dayton people. There might even be, Mike, you'd know this probably better than I. There's probably a veteran services, something or other that, you know, helps with veteran, you know, startups and things like that.
Yeah, Bunker Labs does a lot with veterans across the country. They've got multiple chapters. And Rev 1 has done quite a bit with veterans too. They're not a direct, just we only work with veterans, but they have reached out in that space in Columbus for sure. But Bunker Labs is nationwide.
Yeah. So all those, and I'm, you know, in most, you know, larger cities, they're going to have these types of resources. So I would just, you know, Google accelerator programs in my area or whatever. And the, you know, a lot of people talk down about some of these things, and they're not sometimes the greatest because what they call themselves last in money, which means if you are raising $1 million and you have all the way up to 800,000, they may throw in the last 200. But the resources that they can give you and the guidance that they can give you is fantastic. So I would definitely explore those types of things. So why be an entrepreneur? I told you about the, you know, the riding the roller coaster backwards blindfolded, and I will say this, it could be, you know, a sickness that I have, but that to me is a lot of fun. Like it's something different every day. You know, you can go in and you can have an unlimited potential. You can work as hard as you want to work, you know, or you can set your own hours. But again, most entrepreneurs don't look at things like, I don't know, and my wife tells me this every day, I don't know the last time I took a true vacation. I've been on vacations with my family, but I'm not taking time off. And it's not because I'm like, oh, I have to get this deadline or I got to do this. It's because I love it. Like it's part of my passion, right? And so I do it. I get up early in the morning on vacations or whatever, and just work because I love it. And you know, you can build your own team, right? We were just talking, you know, Gage, you were asking me about the different people, CFOs and everybody else. You're making the calls, right? You're saying, hey, this person has the fire in the belly, or this person can do this for me. And, you know, kind of back to that, it's just day-to-day excitement. I will tell you that the first one that you did, I remember my first company, I was naive. I was scared. I didn't know what I was doing, but you know what? I'm getting out there and I'm doing it. So I always tell everybody that I have about 7 MBAs because you just keep learning. And that's the crazy thing. You will learn. I learn every day. Like and especially if you're around great board members or great mentors or just surrounding yourself with like-minded people, you will learn from them continuously. And that's, you know, kind of going back to the ego thing, just put the ego in check. There's no reason, because you're not going to learn anything. I mean, I sit there and just sponge off of my mentors and even the guys from Carmen and Waterston, and I am just learning constantly every day. The thing is about being an entrepreneur is that there's so many areas to go into after, right? I mean, look at me, like, you know, right now I'm now in PE, right? So I do PE, and then we also have the other side of, I'm still doing, you know, raising companies. So we're doing both. There's venture capital, right? There's that. So you got PE, which private equity, and that is all of these things other than the boards fall under PE. It's like a big umbrella, right? Private equity is a little bit, they're in and out, a little bit shorter term, but they're more invested. Like they actually, that's what, when I was talking about Parachute CEO, that's what I did for them. I was on the ground, boots were on the ground, making it happen. They put you, you know, they're into the companies. VC, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They're going on betting on different flyers. When I say flyers, something that they'll have like 10 in their portfolio, and they're looking for one to hit. So the rest of them are going to fail. Hedge funds, you know, that's even a, you know, kind of higher stake game. They're in it. They're, you know, betting on different, not only companies, they're betting on stocks. So there's that avenue, but you kind of have to figure these other pieces out in order to get into these, unless you're a quant, you know, those people go right into hedge funds, and that's what they're kind of looking at today. Those are, you know, high level mathematicians. And then the other part is just boards. I sit on a lot of different boards now, which gives me a flair to all kinds of different companies. Most companies are what I know in the medical field. You know, when with Carmen Ventures, they, you know, I was talking the other day I was looking at a company that they do hydrogen, and they wanted me to be on their board. And I said, you know, really, I'm not going to help you that much. I don't know that much about hydrogen. And so with the Ohio State Network, we actually found somebody who was a LP for us, or a limited partner investor into Carmen, and he runs GE Power. So he knows a lot about hydrogen. So it's like, you need to kind of connect with the right people. You know, the one thing that I didn't put on here, but I would highly recommend it, is that I know it's not fun to always work, or nobody wants to work for free. But I'm telling you, if you would just say, hey, I'll, you know, go to a company that you want to learn from, right? And say, I'll give you like 5 hours for free, just because I want to learn. What you all are trying to do right now is get a ticket to the game, right? And when you get a ticket into the game, then the doors kind of open, right? So if you said, you know, I worked 5 hours or 10 hours for free for whatever, a week for 6 months or whatever it is, but you got the connections to all these other things, it's so worth it. It's like 100-fold what you'd make, you know, $20 an hour or whatever that number is. So I would really think about doing something like that, because it just makes a lot. I can't tell you how many times I would work for free for different companies just to get my, you know, my thought or my foot in the door there. So that's it. That's all I have right now. And, you know, I just, Mike said I had 45 minutes, and I'm at 46. Plus I had some, you know, interruptions of the door going off there a couple times. So, but yeah, any questions that I can answer, you know, I'm here, and would love to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, I have one off the cuff. So just based on what you said, that piece of advice that you highly recommend, that 5-10 hours that you can throw. I work for free all the time. I mean, we're all service-minded people here. So I'm willing to throw 5-10 hours at anything. What do you think you could offer in those 5 to 10 hours? I mean, just to be able to I mean, we're all able to drop in anywhere in whatever situation and find a space. But when you're looking at someone and you know, they're building something, and you want them to use your time so that you can learn, what could you offer?
So I will give you a real-time example. I mentor five different students now. And one in particular, He is aggressive as all can be. And he's like, give me a project, give me a project, give me a project. And the good thing is that, you know, everybody can work virtually, right? It doesn't matter. Like so what the biggest thing for me right now is finding him a project, right? And I just found him one. You know, you guys and I sound like an old man saying this, but you're so much better with technology and kind of building, you know, presentations, and that's what you kind of grew up with, right? And so he's actually going to build us. I have this very antiquated dashboard that I built out of Excel, and he's going to build that for us. And I gave him the structure and everything, and it's not mission critical for us because we can continue to use what we have. So it's not going to probably be until you kind of prove yourself that, hey, this can happen. I can get this done by Tuesday or whatever. It's probably not going to be mission critical work, but it's going to still be critical. In a small company, you know, everybody's picking up the broom and sweeping, right? So these are going to be important things. So I would just be patient with them and say, you know, and continue to just have dialogue and understand, you know, where what their business is and how they started, and you know, just be genuinely interested. And you know, something will come through. I'm not saying it's going to be like the greatest thing in the world for you. You may say, oh, can you help us, I don't know, put together an invitation? I'm just making up something, right? So but something like that you would be able to handle, right? And then but the thing that I always see with our interns and my mentees is that I went through a ton of mentoring programs and internships, and I didn't really learn anything. You know, I worked for MBNA. I don't even think they're around anymore, but they put me in a corner, and that's where I kind of taught myself Excel. So I sat there and just worked on Excel spreadsheets, just building them for myself all day long. So just keep being persistent, but know what you kind of want to, right? Don't be like, hey, what can I do? You know, be like, hey,
right.
You know, I know you're in med device, and I know you're, I don't know, raising capital. Could I, you know, write something up for you that you could use for your investors? And obviously it would be like maybe an investment letter, right? And you say, just give me some of the top pieces on there and I can write the rest and then give it back to you. If it doesn't work for them, okay, but at least you're showing you're trying to move forward. That's what I mean, the fire in the belly to me, and Jim's on, and I've told Jim this 100 times, it might seem, I don't know what the word would be, stereotypical or whatever, but I have actually come down to the point that I only hire veterans and athletes. And you don't have to be a D1 athlete. You could play in college or high school or whatever you're going to do. I just want the fire in the belly. That's what I want. I will teach you everything that I need to teach you. But if you don't have the fire in the belly, I can't do it. Like, it's just not going to happen. So that is, go in there, have an idea in a direction, you know, and don't say, well, you just, you know, rolled out of bed and you're like, hey, I just stopped by, you know. No, have some thought behind it. Say, I know what you do. I know what you maybe need. And that entrepreneur may say, you know, you're right. Can you build me a dashboard? Go ahead. Gage, take it on, man. Go do it yourself, you know, and then come back and show me what you got. But you also want to make sure that they are giving you what you need. So you're giving, let's say you're doing this for free. You need to still get paid for your time. So one way or the other, it's either monetary or it's by knowledge or connections or whatever. Those are the pieces that will help you moving forward.
You know, one of the things,
appreciate it.
Gage, I was thinking about your question from my perspective, having worked at a university for a long time, and if I were a student trying to figure out where I'd find those opportunities. And I think that Brett sort of gave you sort of the nuggets there, but you know, whether it be the incubators or your tech transfer office at the university or some other stuff, there are probably people who are working on a idea. And you talked about a full-fledged team of people with competencies. If you understand what you think your competency is, and you can find somebody who's working on a problem and they need your competency, you can sit there and say, just what Brett was saying earlier, is they don't have enough money for all the competency they need to get the thing launched. And so you can walk in and say, I think I could help you a little bit. And here's what I might do. The other part to me is you can also get inquisitive about companies that are in your locale that are emerging and growing. And so you could talk to the people of the chamber, you could talk to the people in any of the organizations that deal with those businesses and say, what is the couple, 2 or 3 businesses that are early stage startups that are just starting to knock it out of the ballpark? Because if you can find the winner, it may be the winner that you latch onto and you become part of the team that moves the thing forward. And so in my mind, I think Brett's right. I think sometimes investing in yourself is the first best bet you make. And I think a lot of us, especially, I come from a very, very modest background family. It's hard to imagine giving away something that you don't have much of, which is time, when you're trying to figure out how to get through school, provide for yourself and make things happen. And so you want to be strategic about the allocation of anything you might be giving away. And I talked to a student at the business school one time. They wanted to get a job on Wall Street and they were way late in the cycle. And I said, hey, there's a guy I know in New York. He used to be president of Shearson Lehman American Express. He won't hire you because you're just not there. He says, could you figure out how to get to New York and work for him? Or would you work for free? Well, he ended up paying him $10,000 for his time for the summer at the end. But at first it was just he took a chance on himself, and he ended up getting what his dream was, which was getting a job at Goldman Sachs in New York. And so I think the issue ends up being sometimes just placing a bet. Maybe it won't pay off, but I'll bet you more often than not, if anything, you got something for your resume, something that you can talk about when you're interviewing. And I think that's the other piece, is the currency of what you've got when you're interviewing, even if it's not exactly paying dividends at the moment. Just saying that you did something that nobody else can say they've done makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And if someone said, hey, I went, like Jim said, and I'll just go on that example. I found a way to get to New York. I got myself on Wall Street. I did this. That is back to what I've been saying, the fire in the belly. And I will take the mediocre finance guy, if you will, but if they have fire in the belly and the top of the finance classes, just doesn't have it, I will take him or her every day, because they will work hard. They're going to be in there hitting it hard every day. And that's what I want. Gage, I was going to ask you, and I was going to kind of help you through this. What are your strengths? Like, are you, I don't know, what's your major?
My major is in computer engineering.
Okay. So if I was you and you are, hey, programming or whatever, I would find a little small software group or something, and say, hey, listen, here's my specialty. Can I help you? I would love to learn. I'd love to help you. I know you guys are a 2-man show or whatever it is, and just get into that network. And then they will know other people. So again, going back to what Jim said, it's all about the currency, and the currency does not necessarily mean the green, right? It could mean a couple of different avenues that you can go on. And even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur and you're like, I want to have, like Jim said, I want to work on Wall Street, or I want to be, this computer engineer doing XYZ. Well, figure out that pathway to there, put that on I'm a big vision guy. I have a vision board. So put that on your vision board, but don't just put it there. Like, figure out the pathway to get there, right? So put that, here's my dream job in the next 2 years or 3 years, and then backward plan into that and say, okay, what are the steps that I have to do to get to that point?
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last piece I would say, Brett, is be careful about the person who you align with to have that experience with, because the brand equity of that human being's character and their reputation, you will be co-branded with them for extended periods of time. And so if they're a shark, if they have a reputation, they'll probably teach you bad habits. They'll probably also be, you'll be guilt by association, and I think it's important. So to me, do your due diligence of who you go out, offer that favor to make sure that the person you're connecting up with is the kind of brand you want to have about yourself and who you are. I'm a big fan in the notion of principled leadership. I mean, to me, it's much easier to do things the right way and help at the end of the day that yields you dividends. So to me, but in some ways, when someone goes, oh, you work for so and so, and if you know that something happened to so and so, or that he's got busted 3 times for doing deals the wrong way,
Yep.
At some point you're just gonna have to drop it from the resume.
And to Jim's point, and I am a victim of this. Trust your gut. Trust your gut. Because if you go into something and you're like, oh, this is it. I know, but I just feel this little twinge in my stomach, right? I'm like, I don't know. The first PE fund that I went into, I knew I couldn't trust these guys. I just knew it. But I was like, okay, this is my shot, right? This is me getting into PE. And it didn't work out. These guys were not good brand equity. And but you just there's gonna be something in your gut that you're gonna know. And I know it's gonna feel so good. Like you're like, I know I've overcome that, but just really double check that. It might be wrong, but most of the times your gut's right. What else can I answer? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, this has been a lot of fun. I love talking about this. I put my email up on the screen. If you guys want to email me, you're more than welcome. I love helping different students kind of getting going in the world. Because I've had, like I said, I've had the fortune of a lot of good mentors, and I mean, don't ever stop with your mentors. I probably have 25 of them right now, and I talk to them all the time, and they all bring different values. And the thing is that, and I've talked to some of my mentors, and I said, I just really appreciate you taking the time with me and doing this. And they're like, listen, we get more out of it than you do. And it's true. Like, it's so cool to see, hey, man, Gage, if I see you as, the CEO of a computer company someday, I'm gonna be like, wow, maybe I had a small influence on him. Who knows, but that's a lot of fun. So anything that I can do to help, for sure. Mike, anything else? Jim?
No, I don't think so. Jim, you have anything?
No, I just put in the chat that thank you for your time this evening, and would you please pay your electric bill?
Well, Jim, you have my generator. I needed that. So anyway, I found out there was a little a rubbed wire or something on the outside, so I didn't have to pay for it. So that's good. It was AEP, so that's a good thing. So, all right, well, everybody have a good evening, and let me know if I can help.
Thanks, everyone.
Will do. Thank you so much.